Right, this is part 10 of the WordPress creating a plugin from scratch tutorial, and on this tutorial I'm going to cover action links and meta links. Now I'm on the plugin page where you add, uninstall, activate or deactivate plugins, and you can see I've got the two default WordPress plugins, Akismet and Hello Dolly, as well as the plugin I've been working on for the last tutorials, which is DBSync. And there is one thing that you may notice specifically on the Akismet plugin. When I click activate, you'll notice this settings link, and you can see if I try this with the other two plugins, I don't actually get this settings link. So you can see that the DBSync plugin is missing it, and the Hello Dolly plugin is missing it. And this is something that is added through the code of the plugin, specifically a hook for the action links. Now the action links are extra links underneath a plugin's name that the reason you call them an action link is because they perform an important action around the plugin. Now meta links, I don't have a plugin that shows an example of an extra meta link, but it's basically the links you can see under the description. You can basically add any additional links that you want to show that wouldn't be covered by the default comments, which if you reference part 1 again, then that'll tell you how the original links were prepared. So these are action links and these are meta links. Action links be called action links because they perform important actions around dealing with a plugin specifically. Meta links are just descriptive links. When you click the link, it doesn't actually perform an action, it just leads you to a different web page. Most likely one for information about the plugin. So now that I can understand what action and meta links actually are, I can actually get into the code for creating them. So this is all the files currently in my plugin, which is DBSync. And we're just going to create 2 new files. So now that we're in the folder, we're just going to create a file called action_links. So this file is going to deal with adding any extra links specific to this plugin. And we're also going to create another file. So we're going to create another file and call it meta_links.php for dealing with all the meta links related to this plugin. Now this idea of storing action links and meta links in their own PHP scripts is something I picked specifically for this tutorial, but some people have a habit of throwing the functionality for this into the main file. But because these tutorials are going to expand quite long, then I'm going to need as much room in the main PHP file, which is dbsync.php. So we're going to need as much room as this is possible for future, so it just makes sense to put these in separate files, and at least you know where to find them straight away. So now that I've got those 2 files created, I'm going to go into the main DBSync file because these are a piece of extra code that needs to be added, since we're using the DBSync currently to activate important hooks. So the uninstall and install here, and just underneath this we're going to add the hooks to perform the functions for adding meta links and adding action links. So these are 2 separate hooks. The first hook I'm going to write is the action hook. So hook into action links, tweak them. And this is just going to be simply an add filter. because the way this function works, you already have some initiated action links and meta links. And the way you add in action or meta links is just by filtering the data that's already there. So technically with this function, even though in our case wanting to add action or meta links, technically you could remove meta links or action links and also affect other plugins action and meta links in any way you wanted. Because using this hook you could technically get away with editing any action or meta link on that page. But in this tutorial obviously we're just going to concentrate on our own plugins action and meta links. So the first parameter for this add filter function is basically saying we want to hook into the action links. So when WordPress is adding the action links to the page, we want to intercept that code when it's doing that and tweak the variable that's the default action links are being read from. And the function we want to call with this interception is this function here, which we're going to write shortly. And then the third parameter is 10 and the fourth parameter is 2. Now this may seem a bit unusual, these numbers, but I'm going to actually explain this in a later tutorial, but just understand for now that it's necessary and there's a reason behind this, and it's quite common to see in several filter functions in WordPress plugins. So we're just going to add the other hook. So copy this and paste it. So now we're going to do meta links, which is spelt in a funny way to hook into, well, to use the hook. It's plugin row meta. So this is for meta links. And we're going to use the function dbsync plugin meta links. Again, sticking with the 10.2, which will be explained in the later tutorial, but just know that it's specific to filtering functions. So now that that's been added, I'm going to save this main file and move on to the action links file. Just going to add the basic PHP tags. And now we're going to write the function. Just grab it from here. We're going to write the function that modifies a variable that stores the default action links for all the plugins, and we're going to modify it and return that modified variable. So the variable which contains all the action links before you intercept it is called links. The file variable actually contains the current iteration of plugin files. So this file contains, let's say for example, if the current iteration was this plugin, then that file variable would represent the directory of this plugin and then the main plugin file. So that would be dbsync/dbsync.php. Now the reason we need these two parameters, the links parameter you need because that is the variable that's been returned and used by WordPress to display all the links, and the file is just used to check that it's our plugin that wants to be modified only. So only our plugin needs its action links modifying. So now they understand that, you can just start to get the main parts of the coding done. So action links for plugins. Now this function also, because the plugin that's been designed in these tutorials is contained in a folder, we need an action specifically to read this file variable to make sure that it's this plugin's directory and it's the correct file within the directory. So just state this in the comment that this function is not for a single file plugin. So now that we understand the requirements for implementing this, we can start writing code. So this plugin equals directory name, plugin base name, now this function here simply states the directory of this plugin. So when this function is being called, this basically sets a reference point to what it's expecting this file variable to be when this plugin is the current iteration. So when the hook recognizes while these plugins action links are being iterated that the current iteration, so the current plugin that needs action links to be added to the page, it recognizes that we're on the dbsync plugin, therefore we can apply functionality to modify these links before they return to the page. So just write a comment to make this clear for the future as well. Current iteration is this plugin. And this next piece of code simply checks if this file variable is actually equal to this plugin, as explained why we need to do that before. So if directory name So if this statement is true, then we'll proceed to modify the link variable. So what we're going to do, we're only going to add one extra link to the action links in this tutorial, which is just a settings link, like can be seen in the Kismet. So that's all we want to achieve. So extra link to show. We're just going to add one extra link by first creating a variable to contain the HTML of this new link, which we're going to call settings link, and this variable is just going to contain a string which is the HTML of the link, so just an anchor. Now this next part, the actual href of this anchor is options_general.php. Now the reason that it's pointing to this file specifically is because this is where we're going to be loading our settings page for this plugin in a future tutorial. So setting this link beforehand, this is where it's going to point to in future anyway. It's just cutting down on the coding time. So now we're going to set the HTML of this anchor to settings. So the settings is the text we actually see for the link. Close off the string, and now we're going to add this to the end of the links array. So this is by adding it to the end of the array, the links array, that's what makes the link come last in the action links array. So just doing links and then the empty array operator equals settings link. This adds a variable onto the end, although as mentioned before, once you're within this function, technically you can add the link wherever you want or as many links as you want. So there's nothing to say you can't put this settings link first. It's just in this instance wanting to put it last, just because that's the most common thing. Well, the most common way the settings link is implemented for those plugins, so we just want to be consistent with what users are expecting. So that code's complete now. We just need to return the now modified links array. Now that this function intercepts properly, changes the links variable and returns it, we now have our extra link in place, and it should show links PHP files finished. We're going to move on to the meta links, and we're just going to borrow this file for a second because it's essentially using the same code, but we're just going to switch around the way we do it just to show various styles of implementing this. So first, change the function name to metalinks, still using the same parameters. Still gonna get the directory of this plugin using the same little piece of code. Still gonna use the same check, but this time I'm gonna use a different way, a bit of more shorthand way, and a way that's more suitable for multiple links, which is using the PHP function array merge and combining it with the return. So we're just going to cut out this code for now. So the code we're working on now is just inside once the check has been done, and we know we're only modifying this plugin's meta links. So return array merge. So the first parameter for array merge is the actual links, and then the second parameter is the links that you actually want to add to the links variable. So this is essentially the same code as the action links, but it's just a bit shorter, and this is more useful for adding multiple links, even though we're still going to add one link in this tutorial. So first we've got links, and then on the next line we're going to do an array. So this is the different links that we're passing to the variable. So the extra link I want to add is the license, which explains what license this plugin is under. So license a href. Now I've already decided to license this plugin under the GPL, and I've got a link to this which shows the GPL license on the GNU site, which means anyone can use or modify this for free. So just add in the link to that in the href, and simply the text of the link will show license, just because that's straightforward. So now that we've got that array item done, we can close the array. Just going to move these down so that's a bit easier to read. So once this check has been done and the links variable has been modified, once again, so now that the action links and meta links code has been done, we just need to include these new files by just modifying the includes page that were made in a previous tutorial. And this is just simply the case of just doing a straight PHP include. One includes specifically for the action links file. And one includes specifically for the meta links PHP file. Apologise for that, there was extra parentheses I missed out on the action links PHP file. If I reload this now, we won't get the same error. Sorry if this is a little confusing with the double return, but I'll show you this works. So now you can see, even though I haven't activated or deactivated the DB sync after that code in, I now have a settings link and a license link. And if I click this license link, I will now get redirected to the GNU General Public License page with information about the GPL license that is applicable for this plugin. And in future, if needed, we can add as many action links or meta links as we want, and maybe even get rid of some or interfere with another plugin's action links or meta links. So that's it for this tutorial, and the next tutorial will be on dealing with multiple languages.